Good evening and welcome. Tonight we will be going over the history and geography of the capital governorate in Bahrain. So pretty much it's the entirety of the main area of the city of Manama. You can see right there, Manama. And I don't really have a good map of Bahrain. It is this island here, the bridge connecting it to Saudi Arabia. If you wanted to know more about the history of Bahrain, I will link my Bahrain playlist up there so you can see a little bit more. We're going to go over a lot of history because we're talking about the capital and largest city of this country. It is a very small place on a very small island, but it's really fascinating and there's a lot of cool things there. It's just awkward because there are like more areas that are associated with Manama, but they're not within the capital governorate, so we're not going to discuss them tonight. So what I can describe for you, with you being barely able to see it, that we'll see more detail of on Google Earth later, is that Manama sits on the northern coast of Bahrain. It has docks, the big seaport area is just outside the governorate. It has the city's old souk and its oldest mosque and its biggest mosque, and lots of wonderful historical sites, as well as some much newer, more modern, gorgeous skyscrapers and luxury buildings and such. We are, of course, within the Persian Gulf, which some people call the Arabian Gulf. We're not going to get into that because every time it comes up, people are annoyed by it. So whatever you call it, that is what you call it. There's a little thing here talking about that. Whatever you call this body of water, that's perfectly fine. Just know that my map says Persian Gulf there. And I think that might be it for geography of the actual city. But there are two UNESCO World Heritage Sites here in Manama. Let me grab my tablet and make sure you can see. There we go. The first one is the Qalat al-Bahrain, the ancient harbor and capital of Dilmun. There we go. Let's read it. It says, Qalat al-Bahrain is a typical tell, an artificial mound created by many successive layers of human occupation. The strata of the 300 by 600 meter tell testify to continuous human presence from about 2300 BCE to the 16th century CE. About 25% of the site has been excavated, revealing structures of different types: residential, public, commercial, religious, and military. They testify to the importance of the site, a trading port over the centuries. On the top of the 12-meter mound, there is the impressive Portuguese fort, which gave the whole site its name, Cala, which means fort. The site was the capital of the Dilmun, one of the most important ancient civilizations of the region. It contains the richest remains inventoried of this civilization, which was hitherto only known from written Sumerian references. Oh, there's a cat here or something on the tablet. There we go. We will, of course, look at this place more in detail on Google Earth, but you can see some of the archaeological sites there. The big capital city in the background there, the hazy day, and the big, beautiful fort, which, of course, we'll talk about in history. Now, if you're like, what is the Dilmun? I've never heard of them. Well, don't you worry, because they are also involved in the second UNESCO site, the Dilmun burial mounds, which there's a couple in the governorate. Most of them are in the one outside of it, but there's some within the capital governorate, apparently. The Dilmun burial mounds, built between 2200 and 1750 BCE, span over 21 archaeological sites in the western part of the island. 6 of these sites are burial mound fields, consisting of a few dozen to several thousand tumuli. In all, there are about 11,774 burial mounds, originally in the form of cylindrical low towers. The other 15 sites include 17 royal mounds, constructed as 2-story sepulchral towers. The burial mounds are evidence of the early Dilmun civilization, around the 2nd millennium BCE, during which Bahrain became a trade hub, whose prosperity enabled the inhabitants to develop an elaborate burial tradition applicable to the entire population. These tombs illustrate globally unique characteristics, not only in terms of their number, density, and scale, but also in terms of details such as burial chambers equipped with alcoves. Let's take a look at some of these mounds. You can see some excavations here. Little chambers, little pathways there, some rock walls and symbols. And out here in the desert where most of these burial mounds are, outside the city. So we're not going to really talk about them, but I'm sure you're still going. But ASMR Geographica, who were the Dilmun? And I want to say real quick, if you've never heard of the Dilmun, but you're interested in ancient Mesopotamia, ancient Sumer, Assyria, all of that culture, take a moment to research the Dilmun because you're going to love them. They are so interesting. They traded with all those groups I just mentioned and many more. And just had a very unique society that's really underrated in studies about ancient history. I've never heard of them from school at all. So yes, the Dilmun civilization would have been thriving in this area of the island and throughout the island by 3000 BCE. They had an extensive trading network. I think in the way that the Phoenicians explored and traded, these guys had a trade network throughout the Gulf area here. And they traded pearls. They traded all kinds of things, but it was mainly pearls. My mind just blinked on other things they traded. But mostly pearls. That's what they were mainly known for. And all kinds of different artifacts from India, Egypt, so on, have been found in Dilmun sites in Bahrain. It's pretty neat. They were big into trading. By the year 700 BCE, the Dilmun were conquered by the Assyrians, made it part of their empire, which they were conquered by the Babylonians, so it became part of Babylon. That would morph eventually into the Achaemenid Empire, the Persians, which was conquered by Alexander the Great, which would have introduced a more Hellenistic or Greek culture. They were conquered, the island was conquered by the Parthians, which would eventually become the Sassanids. Zooming through history. And it was during this period that Christianity was introduced to the island and churches were built. But of course, that would diminish by the year 628 CE when Islam was introduced to Bahrain, which is, of course, the dominant religion of Bahrainis today. It was during that time, in the early 600s CE, that the Khamis Mosque was built in what's now Manama. We'll take a look at that on Google Earth. It's still around, the oldest mosque in Bahrain. By 1330, this fishing trading port was a tributary of the Kingdom of Hormuz, located pretty much in what's now Oman, maybe in parts of what's now the Emirates as well, but mostly Oman. 1343 is the first time that the actual city of Manama was mentioned in a document. So even though it's been around for so long, for thousands of years at this point, that's the first time that we have confirmation of the actual city. In 1521, the island was conquered by the Portuguese. The Portuguese came up into the Gulf and conquered whatever they could, including Bahrain. They're the ones that built the fort that was mentioned on UNESCO. In 1602, the Persians, however, would cross the Gulf and take the island over from the Portuguese. And in 1783, a local tribe would go on to capture the city from the Persians and push them out. They were led by the Al-Khalifa dynasty, the Al-Khalifa family, which is still the reigning family of Bahrain today. So the same family has been in control of this island since 1783. Pretty interesting. By 1861, the British got involved in Bahraini affairs. Life wasn't so great after the Khalifas took over. The quality of life really went down. So they relied a lot on the British for help with that. And of course, the British were ever so glad to help out and slowly but surely assert their dominance. They would sign a treaty that year, 1861, which would pretty much make Bahrain a protectorate. And they would sign various treaties throughout the years that gave the British Empire more and more power and control over the island. In the 1920s, the price of pearls collapsed. Artificial pearls or cultured pearls were invented in Japan, which were far cheaper than diving down into the water and digging up clams yourself. Oysters, I should say. And not to mention the Great Depression happened not long after that, and nobody was buying any pearls because jewelry was a luxury at that time. So the pearling industry collapsed. But thankfully, in 1932, when the island was on the brink of disaster because their main source of income was pretty much worthless at that point, petroleum was discovered. And the British, with, of course, the locals here, began to drill oil. In 1958, Manama became a free port, which increased a lot of the traffic there. And in the 1960s, due to many protests against British control, Bahrain would gain its independence in 1971, and Manama would be declared its capital city. There are actually many protests throughout Bahrain at this point. Mainly during the 1990s, just protesting injustice and mistreatment of people. The largest protest would be the 2011 Arab Spring protests that swept out through many Islamic and Arab countries, with varying degrees of success or failure or disaster, depending on which country it was. In Bahrain, the Khalifa family said we'll listen, we'll hear your demands, and made promises that weren't kept just to appease the protesters here, in my opinion. And nothing really changed due to those protests. Today, Manama is booming. It's becoming a luxury destination here in the Gulf countries, competing with the Emirates and Qatar, not far off, and Saudi Arabia as well. I suppose Kuwait as well. It's getting pretty luxurious nowadays, but Manama's building those fancy, cool-shaped high-rises like they're doing in many cities in the Gulf states. You saw some in the intro. You saw my favorite one in the intro. They're also doing a couple things a little differently than they traditionally have been. One of the biggest ones is coastline reclamation, which is really popular in the Emirates. But Bahrain is really going wild with it. In my big History of Bahrain video, we looked at a bunch of reclaimed islands that are made by dumping a bunch of sand into the water until you have an island, and they can make it any shape, any size they want. There aren't any technically within the governorate, but there's a bunch around it. I tried to assess which ones were newer. I think I see a couple of new ones around, but I can't really tell. It's hard to determine, but they're definitely working on that and using those islands to build more fancy hotels and resorts and fancy homes, shopping, things like that. Also, Bahrain has slowly but surely been moving away from the oil industry. Their reserves are not depleted, but they're on the road to being depleted. They've got a couple of decades left of oil, and they don't want to go through another economic collapse. Nobody does. So they are taking their time before that happens to focus on other things to bring in income. And it's mostly tourism. It's all of the glamorous shopping. And what I could tell from various websites is that they're advertising Manama as a place to have your base of operations as you explore the Gulf states. If you don't want to stay in Qatar, they're saying Manama is the safest city to stay in, and you can, travel to Saudi Arabia over the bridge. You can take a boat to Qatar or fly to the Emirates or Kuwait or wherever you want to travel, but primarily stay in Manama. From what I could tell from these websites, at least, that's what they were encouraging. Which isn't a bad idea. It's kind of right smack dab in the middle of the Gulf here, so not a bad idea. So they're really trying to bring in tourist money and tourist shopping money mostly. And that is the history of Manama. It's a really beautiful city, and I think we should hop over to my tablet and take a look at it on Google Earth. So let's do just that. Let's go to my tablet and check it out. Here we are in the capital governorate. And I realize now, when I said there's no reclaimed islands in the governorate, I totally lied because I forgot about these islands up here, which I don't think are technically islands. I think they're peninsulas. Yeah, well, this is an island for sure. Oh, yeah. I forgot about these islands. Technically not islands up here, but you can definitely tell that's reclaimed land. But anyway, that's that. Looks like over here too, they're going to work on something. But that being said, let's zoom out so you can see exactly where we are in the world. If you've never heard of Bahrain, if you have no idea where it is, that's totally fine. We're going to learn right now. So here is the Persian Gulf. We can see big old Saudi Arabia right here. There's Qatar, this peninsula sticking up. The Emirates are along this coast here. And there's Iran. You can see the beautiful mountains there, the Zagros Mountains. We can see the Shat al-Arab up there in Iraq and Kuwait. That's the Persian Gulf and the Strait of Hormuz right there. We are in Western Asia, technically, even though some people don't think of this area of being Asia, It is, technically. So yeah, you can see Africa over here, India over here, the Arabian Sea and the Indian Ocean. We got Turkey up there, Black Sea, Caspian Sea, so on and so forth. I think you figured out where we are by now. So what should we see first? Let me show you the fort, because Google Earth says that the fort is not in the governorate, and it totally is. Every other source that I've seen has said that the fort is in this governorate. So I think the border is more like here than right here. Maybe it's changed or something. But let's take a look at this fort. And of course, Google Earth's doing the thing it's done since the update. 1 second, let me flip this and quickly restart it. Give me just 1 second. And now it works. I don't know why. It's very annoying. But here's beautiful Bahrain Fort. You can see the big city over there and the old building here. I like shots like that, or you can see the old and the new. It's definitely crumbled over time, but like UNESCO said, it's also sitting on top of an archaeological site. We'll look at the Fort Museum in a minute. But what's still around is pretty neat. Yeah, I like those pictures when you see the old and the new together. I think that's a good juxtaposition. Oh, it's pretty at night. And here's the Fort Museum. There's some weird modern art there, but let's look at some cool Dilmun artifacts. Old pottery, old boat there. Of course, they were big into boat making as well. I don't know how I feel about this art. It's like scary bees. It's too many legs. Big into boat making since they were such prolific traders, and you need a boat to go pearl diving, so it's good to have that. Look at all the coins. I wonder where these coins are from. I can't see, the writing's way too small, but that's pretty cool. Yeah, I like these little cube art there. That's really neat. Isn't that gorgeous? It's such a cool civilization. Everything that, I think it's just because we never learned about the Dilmun civilization in school, or at least I didn't. So I've never really seen a lot of their art and artifacts and things. So when I see it, I'm like, oh, it looks so cool, just because I'm not used to looking at it. I think, at least. All right. Let's head over to this building right here is the Bab al Bahrain. It's the Bahrain Gate. Does it say here? Yeah, opened in 1949. It was a British administrative building. It's since been rebuilt to be more, not that. You can see some shopping there, to make it more of a landmark. It's really cool, I think. Kind of reminds me of, I know I talk about San Francisco way too much, but you can tell I've been kind of homesick since making the California video. It reminds me of the ferry building in its shape, and it has all of the neat little shops inside of it. It reminds me of that. That's a pretty mosque right there, all blue and tiled. Yeah, it makes me think of that. Look at all the little trinkets. Let's look at the souk next. Head down here. Oh, there it is. Never mind. It's Manama souk. Already tagged for us. Which, of course, has all of this wonderful shopping. You can buy pretty much anything. Beautiful clothes there. Let's see. Yeah, all this neat modern art. Beautiful lanterns. All the shops there. All kind. You can buy almost anything there. There's a big old mosque. Here's the building we're going to look at next. Yeah, this is the place to go if you want to get anything and everything. There's spices there and nuts. I think mostly just nuts. And yeah, remember, it is a free port. So I kind of wonder, I should have looked that up. Is it like duty free here? Is that what that means? I'm not sure. But anyway, over here, and unfortunately, you can't really see how neat these buildings are because Bahrain is not in 3D. Very disappointing, Google. But you can see the shadows of this tower. And I think there was a slideshow over here that really showed them. I want to say it's this one, but I know there's another one over by I think the Hilton. But, oh yeah, this is it. So this is Bahrain's World Trade Center. And what's neat is that it has these turbines here that create power for the towers, at least some of the power. And it's not entirely wind powered, although that would be pretty cool, maybe someday. That's the big hotel we're going to look at next, all fancy. I think that's neat. I think that's a wonderful idea. I think more buildings should incorporate that. Yeah, from this park you can see all of the fireworks. Big holiday, maybe New Year's or something. See all of the fancy stores here, all of the beautiful buildings. Some Ramadan decorations, maybe, with the moon there. They've got a Raising Cane's. No way. Yum, Raising Cane's is delicious. But yeah, that's my favorite building, is this one. The other, like, big fancy ones over here, you can see its shadow. It's the Four Seasons, not Hilton, the Four Seasons. I just mostly like this photo. That's a gorgeous photo at sunset of the two coolest buildings in Bahrain, in my opinion. That's pretty neat. Hotel structure there. A big old suite there, you think? That's cool. And that's, of course, on this big island here, which you can tell is reclaimed. I don't know why I said there's no reclaimed islands. It's because I was thinking of this island here, Muharraq, and all of this happening out there. I was thinking of this. I wasn't thinking of these. There's totally reclaimed islands here. You can even see a little beach that they're building over here, so you can see the process happening. And of course, it stopped working. 1 second, 1 second. Let me restart the app. 1 second, 1 second, 1 second, 1 second. Okay. Bahrain Bay Beach, which has a good ring to it. Bahrain Bay Beach, Bahrain Bay Beach, Bahrain Bay Beach. Go swimming, enjoy the sun. You know it gets hot, 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 hot here. It gets crazy hot. This reminds me of the flame towers in Baku, but not quite, right? So yeah, beaches are very important here in a place that gets ridiculously hot in the summertime. Go canoeing there, it looks like. That looks like fun. Yeah, look at that view. Yeah, that's my favorite building by far. It's really neat. And lots of canoes for rent out here. That's pretty cool. Good activities. Here's the Bahrain National Museum. The slideshow isn't great, but you get a good idea. It is I believe it's the largest museum in Bahrain. Some tableaus there, cats and chickens. Some of the big dhows and boats that have been built here in Manama, Bahrain. There's a skeleton, we'll skip that. Some more depictions of daily life. Looks like they're weaving fishing nets, I think, by the looks of that. Look at this costume. That is so beautiful. All that gold, that beautiful green color. Some more amazing art. Looks very Assyrian. Looks very Babylonian, probably from that era. Beautiful archway. Some art outside as well. And some reconstructions of, looks like archaeological sites. Looks like a study center here. Old-timey madrasa, maybe. Oh, maybe this is like what a traditional wedding would look like. I'm guessing. Sewing there. And an old shop. That's pretty cool. If we go a bit further down here. Over here? Yeah. We can see the big mosque here. I believe it's the biggest in Bahrain. Does it say here? On the Al Fatah Mosque, Fatah Islamic Center, Al Fatah Grand Mosque. One of the largest mosques in the world, so yeah, I assume it's the biggest in Bahrain there. It's a beautiful building, of course. Look at the beautiful lamps there. You can see the skyline back there. Sorry if you hear a weird little static pop. I don't know why it does that. I'm going to try to talk over it. Everyone praying there toward Mecca, of course. And there's, like it said, there's like a cultural center attached to it as well. And yeah, waiting for this popping sound to stop. I hope you can't hear it. See, there it goes, stopped. Looks like a big oyster, doesn't it? Like a big clam where you'd find some pearls. The Pearl Museum is over here somewhere, but it also wasn't that was like my least favorite slideshow, so I think we'll skip that one. Oh, I promised you another mosque. The oldest in Bahrain. It is over in one of these neighborhoods. Don't remember. It's somewhere over here. We'll find it. That's a park. Let me see if I can zoom out and read. See, there's Kamis. It's like if I can read the neighborhoods, I'll find the mosque. Here it is. Oh, Kamis Mosque. It'll say right here, surely. Built during the era of the Umayyad Caliph. But yeah, it's still around. Obviously not operational, but it's still here. Still neat. This would be cool to visit and see this, what's left at least of this old building. Beautiful calligraphy there. Arabic calligraphy is probably like my favorite. It's so pretty, and it's used in so many beautiful art. Looks like we got some pottery sherds there, I assume. Lots of stuff that's been dug up by the looks of it. What's survived, and the many takeovers and sieges that Bahrain has experienced throughout the years. Not any time recently. Well, I guess if you count the British, but they didn't, take over. They diplomatically took over. They didn't come guns a-blazing or anything. But, yeah, that's pretty much Manama. There's tons of shopping centers, like I've mentioned. There's the hypermarket, whatever that means. Shopping complex. There's the big mall over here. There's a lot of shopping here, and of course a lot of luxury hotels here, and yeah, just a lot happening. Financial harbor there. I guess I could show you the Corniche at the end here, because I think that's all the things I wanted to show you. And of course it has stopped working, so let me quickly restart. Eventually this will fix itself. I'm really sad that it's still not working, because in tomorrow's video we're going to another capital city, another area that is the region's named capital city. But it's a very, very large city in Eastern Europe. I wonder if you can guess what it is. I won't tell you, I'll make you guess. It's a very large city in Eastern Europe. Put it in the comments if you think you know where we're going next. But thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this style of content, please consider subscribing. Look at the palm trees all lit up. So pretty. I like that. Please, if you're still awake, if you're listening to this right now, hit the thumbs up button. Let me know all your thoughts down below in the comments. I would love to hear them. I hope that you found this video to be relaxing and educational. And I hope that you have a good night. Oh, kitties, oh my gosh. Cute. Good night.